Hello and good morning friends, welcome to the CEC-UGC live lecture. Dear friends, with our ongoing series on organization behavior, today we would be talking on stress and its management, how it could be managed. So dear friends, we would like to tell you all that for this very discussion, we have once again with us in our studios Dr. Namita Rajput. Dr. Namita Rajput is a principal in Sri Aurobindo Evening College, University of Delhi. So let's welcome our guest Dr. Namita Rajput and let's try to grab maximum knowledge through her. Hello ma'am, welcome to Redesigning lecture.
So good morning friends, here we have a very important and interesting topic called prevention and management of stress. Stress has been a part of our life, in everyday part of our life. We experience this stress, and to some extent if stress is not there, we will not be able to survive, because the only person without stress is a dead man. So all we need is to manage the stress to survive, and here we have today with us all the management strategies to manage the stress. Teams need to perform well, and in the right choice it can be very healthy and even enjoyable. So this states that stress to some extent is good for our lives and it can be enjoyable as well. So when we are able to make a right choice and how we are going to manage it, it is going to be a very enjoyable thing for us. So otherwise, if it is not managed in the way it should be, then of course it is going to impact our health, it is going to impact our happiness, and of course it is going to affect all the vital parameters of our life like work performance, etc. It is going to also hamper the team spirits and the cooperation with us, it is going to hamper our relationships, it is going to hamper our personal development, etc. So most people experience a significant period of stress or depression during the work. To feel stressed at various times is very normal, and if we think the stress is excessive and we need help, and then we should consult a suitable qualified professional such as our doctors. And stress is a normal occurrence that often arises when we perceive a situation as threatening, or even when we deal with the unusually large number of everyday responsibilities. With the extended demands of home and work life, many people are experiencing external stress. The main aim of the stress management is to help an individual balance the various aspects of life, work, relationship, pleasure, and also to balance the physical, intellectual, and emotional aspects of life. So this very slide states what? That stress has to be managed in a very particular manner so that it gives us the way we want. Like for example, if the stress is not managed, it is going to impact our health, it is going to impact our work culture, it is going to impact our team spirits. We will not be able to perform very well. So hence the stress has to be managed in a very strategic manner. And of course the basic aim of the stress management is to have a balance in terms of the work, leisure, in terms of the relationships we have, in terms of our physical and emotional aspects of our lives. So this is all we have to think about, and this is the main objective of stress management is. Now coming on to the management techniques. Now as we all understand that we are all, not all, but yes, 60 to 70% of the workforce is working. So the maximum stress which comes to us is the work related stress. So what we have to do is we have to manage the individual stress, we have to manage the organizational stress. So there are certain strategies which is going to help at the individual level, and there are certain strategies which is going to help at the corporate level. So the techniques which help us countering the individual level is as follows. You have to understand the causes of the stress. That is, perhaps it is the best way to provide the mental and the emotional relief. Now if you come to know that the stress is coming to you because of this reason, so it is better to wipe out that reason. And of course it is a very important thing to understand that this is the main cause which is causing stress to me, that is an individual level. So there are certain steps which you have to see, there are certain mind gauging techniques which you have to adopt, and finally if you understand that this is the main cause of stress which an individual has or which a person has, then of course you are able to manage the stress, and this is what we are striving for, because in the cosmopolitan and the modern life of today, unless and until we counter the stress, we will not be able to achieve the success in life. So, the common causes of the stress at individual level could be a sickness, that is when you're not feeling well. It could be a high staff turnover. It could be poor communication between the teams. It could be a bullying amongst each other. Then the lack of feedback on performance, value and contribution, technological changes, lack of clarity of roles and responsibilities, dissatisfaction with the non-monetary benefits, the long working hours, the boring and mundane work, and the uncomfortable workplace and the lack of training. So we have understood that there are certain reasons because of which the individual counters the success. Like when you are, because we are talking about the organization behavior, so we will be mainly talking about, even at individual level, the organizational factors, which are the key factors for the individual stress levels. So it could be a sickness, like an individual, we are not always healthy and not always feeling good. So sickness could be one of the major reasons for us individual stress. It could be a high staff turnover. Like for example, you're working in an organization and the people, they are just leaving the job and joining some other organizations. So this could be a process because of which you will counter a stress that why I am here, why everyone else is leaving. So you have to reason out, you have to think about your own individual levels, that yes, this is your place or this is not your place in that case. But yes, if the people are going out and the labor turnover ratio is very high, so there is a significant amount of stress which an individual feels. Then of course it could be non-clarity amongst the communication levels of the teams. It could be a lack of the feedback of the individuals. It could be a technological change. Now for example, if you are in a Gen X, or it could be a baby boomers, or you are senior staff in the organization. So it is not always that you would welcome the change, and if the technological change is taking place, of course the organization would be now working at an automated level and you have to learn the new techniques for that matter. So this could also bring you a lot of stress because you have to come out of your comfort zone and start learning about the latest things which you have. Then of course the long working hours which you have can also cause a stress. It could be a very monotonous and a boring work which you're already doing throughout the day. So this could also be a cause of a stress amongst the individual. It could be a lack of training, it could be uncomfortable workplace, it could be uncongenial atmosphere, it could be unfriendly atmosphere. But yes, you have to reason out why the individual stress is coming up and what are the strategies to manage that particular stress. Now coming on to the techniques of individual managing of the stress. The first is the life situations. The major events such as divorce, death, midlife crisis, financial worries, persistent strain of caring for a chronologically sick child, nagging the health problems, managing a physical or mental challenge. Family members can act as a potential stressors. Even the conditions such as prolonged unemployment or a sudden layoff from a job can leave a tremendous stress on an individual. And one has to deal with these situations in a very right spirit to make a life a worthwhile experience. Now, stress also comes from our personal and the social context and our physical and emotional reactions to such conditioning. Here, our mental and emotional dispositions built over the years decides whether to accept these situations with a fighting or a fleeing spirit or not. Accordingly, we may either be under a harmful influences of these stressors or be out of it. The children and the women subjected to mental and physical abuses are also suffer from a tremendous stress symptoms such as depression, constant anxiety, burnouts. Though anger, fear and other negative emotions, reactions are natural and unnecessary. We need to channel them constructively to create a balanced state of our body and mind. Now we have seen here that there are certain situations in life which can be a very great cause of the stress in an individual, which has to be managed in a very nice way. Like for example, the individual is not working, or there is a prolonged unemployment. There could be a family reasons. It could be the constant nagging at the family background. It could be a mental and a physical challenge. It could be a family member sickness as well. So they are also called as the potential stressors because they are going to impact the individual performance as well. So the stress has to be managed, whether it is coming out from a personal source or an official source, and you have to basically understand and how to wipe it out is very important. You should not be just carried away by the emotions which are coming your way. You have to be emotionally intelligent to balance your professional life and your personal life. So there has to be a trade-off between the two, and perhaps if if you are able to do it, then of course the sky is limit for you, and you will be able to manage the stress to a large extent. Then we have certain health concerns which are also causing certain stress levels. It could be unrealistic pleasures can also cause a stress in the life, and if the health of an individual is not good and he is not able to lead a good and a comfortable life, then all the material goods, luxurious goods, will only give unrealistic pleasures in life and not the real pleasures, and not only the real pleasures. Now there is a cynical and the negative attitude. It is said that life acts and we react. Our attitude, our reaction to what life hands out to us. A significant amount of stress symptoms can be avoided or aroused by the way we relate to the stressors. The stress is created by what we think rather than what has actually happened. For instance, handling the adopted children, adolescents, academic failures, retirements, tax audits, sudden loss of money needs a relaxed attitude. And once focused, you'll be prepared to face the quills of the life positively. And otherwise, one tends to feel stressed out and reacts in anger and frustration. With a better control of attention, one can feel the world is more congenial place to live in. So we have, read till now, and we have understood till now that there are certain life situations which are very important, and they are the potential stresses in the life. And similarly, we have certain health concerns, we have certain unrealistic pleasures, and we have certain negative attitude, which is basically instrumental for the stress levels of an individuals. So what you have to do is you have to basically understand what is causing stress. You have to manage that stress, and basically the key factor to manage the stress is a relaxed attitude. So unless and until the work is relaxed and you are taking the work in a very relaxed manner, you will not be able to find out the peace of mind which an individual is always striving for. So coming on to the next levels, again in the marital conflict, instead of adopting an accusing and frustrating attitude, you made my life hell, or meeting some emotional needs, the American clinic psychotherapist William suggests that yes, we have a problem, please help clear the stress. The failures in adopting a realistic attitude to events create symptoms of depression and aggravates these stress situations. Attitude to me is more important than facts. It is more important than the past, than education, than money, then circumstances, and then failures, then success, and then what other things about to do it. I'm convinced that life is 10% of what happens to me and 90% of how I react to it. And so it is with you, says Charles, a very good public speaker. A right attitude can make a resilient person out of us in the face of a stressful situation. So overall, the stress here, or the crux of this discussion, is that whenever you face any kind of a stress, or whenever you face any kind of a problematic situation, you have to show a very good attitude, a very positive attitude, and you can do it attitude, which can really take the problems away and the success on the way. So because you have to react in a very nice manner, very relaxed manner, in a very good attitude also, because if the reactions are bad, it is not going to take away the stress, rather it is going to increase the stress. So now coming on to living a more balanced life is also one of the techniques to counter the individual stress levels. Stress is experienced when the life is out of a balance. We may be spending too much time, money and energy on working or caring for others at the expense of our own health and the well-being. The following strategies can help in living more balanced and a stress-free life. Delegating or sharing our responsibilities at work and home, avoiding difficult colleagues, family members and acquaintances, learning to be more assertive. And the techniques at the individual level that help in living a balanced life are like doing a very regular exercise, not using drinks or drugs to cope it. Then of course eating a very healthy and nutritional food like fruits and vegetables. Then finding a humor in a stressful situations, and just let it go attitude should be adopted at the individual level. And of course never taking one more than what we can cope with the stress, and organizing our time in a very better way as far as possible to the great extent. Listening to the friends, family, thoughts, fears is important. Listening to a music in a very relaxed tapes is also very important, because there are certain mind relaxing tunes which are available on the internet, so you can download them and listen to them. It is going to actually relax your mind, and of course you will feel rejuvenated, and again you can take up the challenges. And then of course tensing and then relaxing our muscles, and starting at the toes and the working to the head and the neck. So these are the personal life, living a very balanced and a good life. This is going to counter the stress to the best possible extent. Then coming on to the recognition of what we can change. Can we change our stresses by avoiding or eliminating them completely? Is a big question mark. Can we reduce their intensity? Is a question to be stressed upon. And can we shorten our exposure to the stress? Can we devote time and money necessary to make a change? If we do to any of these, we can perhaps reduce the stress to some extent. Now, for example, your stress is coming out because of certain death of a family member. So, any case, whenever you cry or you do anything, you cannot put life into a dead man. So, what you can do is, if you cannot change that situation, you have to change yourself. You have to change your attitude. So, you have to ask question to yourself whether you can change it. If yes, how? If you cannot change it, then just go away with the conditions and just let the life as it comes. Because crying over a split milk, crying over a dead man is not going to put anything, or not going to put life into that man. Even if you cry for almost all your life, you cannot change it. So the first thing which you have to ask yourself is, can you change it? And then you have to strategize accordingly. Then you have to manage the time and scheduling of your activities. It may be necessary to reorganize yourself. It could be managing your time, managing your balanced life in a better way. Some strategies for time management include: make to-do list, what should check items off as we complete them. Prioritize tasks and then work on the most important ones. Learn to say no if you cannot do it. Delegate certain less important tasks onto your the juniors or the subordinates. So it is not that everything you have to do yourself. It is not important that you do it yourself. Only the pertinent and the important issues you can contain to yourself, and rest of the work you can delegate onto your juniors. Then of course a certain extra time for the task in case of interruptions should be also strategized, and take frequent breaks and schedules. Time for relaxation is also important when you're making your timetable. So what you have to do is, we have till now discussed the techniques at the individual levels. The first thing which we did was that you have to avoid the time conflicts. You have to avoid the marital conflicts. You have to be very clear in your problems, and you have to show a very relaxed attitude onto the people. Of course, a right attitude can do a lot of things, and even in these stressful situations, if your attitude is very positive, you can do it to the best possible extent. Then living a more balanced life, stress was a good option, and of course we did the regular exercises, good working schedules, good eating schedules, good social interactions, talking to friends, relaxation schedules. They are going to give a lot of help to an individual to counter the stress levels. Then we must recognize that whether you can change it or not. If yes, then you can strategize. If cannot, then you have to change yourself, because the situation is not going to change at any cost. Then you have to manage your time and schedules, because time and schedules, managing that, you have to make your day, you have to plan your day, you have to make a list of to-do list items in the morning, and then you have to put in your time, money and efforts accordingly. Then of course the next technique is accepting the support from the others. This is perhaps a very important thing which nowadays people are aversive to, or people are not happy to do it. But yes, if you start accepting the support from the others, it is going to counter the stress levels. One of the most important and effective things what we do, what we are stressed to talk from our heart to a friendly listener who remains calm and listens in a way that makes us feel understood. Studies show that people who are actively social and most capable of dealing with the stressful situations and the major illness. To reduce the stress levels, What should develop a network or the friends, family members to turn out to what stress threatens us? If we are a naturally private or independent person, it might seem challenging to build a support system. In order to cultivate a circle of the friends, we need to take the first step. Our efforts to create a strong social network will serve us, and we are not able to convert and confront with the serious stress. Think of the individuals who care about us and who can share most of our personal thoughts. Reach out to the people who feel close to you, call them, make dates to see them, be open, available to them, and let us love them. Then build a relationship based on emotional honesty, members of our inner circle who knows how to listen without judging us, giving advice, or comparing our experiences to others. Now, this is a very important thing that we must understand, that if we start accepting the help from the others, we are going to counter the stress to the best possible extent. Now, for example, you have a good number of friends, but there are certain very handful friends who are actually connected to you, and you feel like sharing the things with you. So what you can do is you can call them, you can have date with them, you can share your thoughts with them, because you know that they are the people who are going to pull you up. But yes, you have to accept this fact that you cannot counter the stress alone. We are a social human being, and we need the society's help to the large possible extent. And if we start accepting this fact that yes, if you talk to people, you talk your heart to them, you're relieved, you're relaxed, because now somebody else is also known to your thoughts, your feelings, which is bothering you to the best possible extent. So, this is going to counter the stress. Then coming on to developing the skills to stress relief. Now, our attitude has a lot to do whether the events or occurrences produce a feeling of stress. Once we admit that we are not able to control everything, we will be better equipped to handle the unexpected situations. Stress management comes down to finding the ways to change our thinking and manage our expectations. Some important ways to adjust our attitude is be realistic, try to assertive, be flexible, rehearse, prepare, think positively, and don't care, and don't take work problems home and home problems to work. So you have to be a smart worker, you have to be an individual with these smart strategies. So if you're going to take your office home and your home at office, you will not be able to manage anything for that matter. You will not be able to be having a success in your personal life, and you will not be able to have a success in your corporate life as well. Then you have to organize your life and make it simple to the best possible extent. If one of our main sources of stress is a sheer number of the things that we need to do, getting organized should help us feel more at peace. A good sense of organization will make us more efficient. Simplifying our life helps us feel less overwhelmed. Plan our day, learn to prioritize. Do what we important feel and realize that these things can wait until later. Cut out some activities and delegate the task. Break large demands into small and manageable parts. Work through the work as one by one. Organize our home and workspaces so that we know where the things are. Keep our personal belongings in the working order to prevent untimely stressful repairs. Now, sometimes you are having a very complex life. Your life is full of stress because of the workload at the corporate level, the pressures of your house also, because you cannot have a peace at all levels, because the things which you have to do, you have to do. So what you have to do is you have to organize your life, you have to manage your time activities, you have to put in your best efforts to make a priority of the list which is significant, which can counter the stress. Then of course taking a break, going on a holiday, and taking or going for, of course, not away from the workplace can also rejuvenate you and counter the stress. So taking a break, we should take time every day to slow down and do something we enjoy, even if it is just for a few minutes. Reading a magazine, playing with our dogs, reading our child books and other activities, it is going to help forget the stress of our day and calm us and help us remember what is important. Stop for several mini breaks during the work hours. Take 30 seconds to look out the window or stretch. Set aside some personal time, but limit spent with negative people. We should go for a walk, listen to music, socialize, indulge in sports and recreation. It is definitely going to help to counter the stress and take out some time to rejuvenate ourselves, even if it is just a day or a mid-break or a long break. If possible, go on a vacation. Do volunteer work or start a hobby. Soak in a hot bath, pray or meditate, and do yoga. So these are certain very important steps and the ways with the able to which you are able to counter the stress. Then of course keeping a diary of your important activities, what you have done, what you have to do, is also very important. Writing things down has a marvelous way of putting things in a perspective. Putting our worries into the words may help us see what we don't have, that we don't have, and that may help us that we don't really have to do much worry about it. Or it may help us to get organized, manage our stress rather than letting it manage us. List the situations that produce stress in your work and your life. For example, moving to a new location, work or the school demands, balancing the priorities and the job promotion. Describe how we cope with each type of stressful experience and evaluate are they responsible, are they happy and unhealthy, are they appropriate or unproductive for that matter. So seeking the professional help for the stress is also very important to counter the stress. And of course, if you are feeling stressed out, you have to change your attitude. You have to keep away from the worries. You have to go for meditation and yoga. You have to be realistic in your attitude, as we have discussed already. And of course, we are not perfect in our 21st century. We often try to do it. We know the superwoman, superman image, perfect to go on an employee. These aspirations are themselves wonderful, but realizing you can do it, it is all the major steps towards reducing our stress levels. Thank you so much. So now we have the strategies to counter the stress at the organization level. We have already done there are certain good strategies which are you're able to manage your individual stress. Now comes the time when you're in the office and when you're in the organization. So organization itself is a big stress in itself, because you have to carry out so much of responsibilities, so much of vital roles which you have to play. There are so many deadlines which you have to do. So all these things they are going to counter, they are going to give you the stress. So countering the organizational stress is also very important from the organization point of view, because otherwise if it is not managed, it is going to have a disastrous impact on the individual lives of the organization. So the following techniques can help us in managing the organizational stress. For example, the first is the counseling. It is the discussion of a problem with an employee to help the employee cope up with the stress. Through counseling employees, mental health is released of the emotional tensions. Meditation and yoga is of course very important to counter the organizational strategies and the job design. Properly designed jobs and work schedules can help release and ease the stress of the individuals and the organizations. The time management, the role clarity, the right objectives, and build the emotional physical success to reduce the stress at all levels. Positive thinking and learning from the mistakes. So we have done till now, there are certain good strategies which can counter the organizational stress. Like for example, you have the good counselors in your organization. So if your counseling is done at a good level, people would understand their reasons to do certain things, of course, and they'll be having a good mental health compared to the emotional tensions which earlier they were having. So because of the counseling sessions, they are able to have the deep insights of the problem. They understand why the problem is coming and they understand how to counter that problem. Then coming on to a meditation and yoga, these are the mind relaxing techniques which every individual must go in for. Whether you like gymming, you should go to gym. Whether you like walking, you should go for a walk. If you are fond of meditation and yoga, you should go for it. So they are all going to have the same good impact on your mind, thoughts, etc., and you feel rejuvenated after doing that. Then a job redesigning is also very important. For example, you are working in an organization and the design is very stressful in terms of your responsibilities, role. All the time you have to be on your toes compared to others' job schedules and the work. So you can always address your problems to your superiors and you can always have an interaction with them, a direct communication with them that yes, we have to counter this kind of a situation and we are very unhappy with the designing of the job. So here the redesigning of the job, it is going to counter everything and you're going to have a good success in your organizational life. So redesigning, rescheduling and all these stuffs, they are going to help the organizational stress management technique. It is one of the best organizational management techniques. Then of course we have a time management. Now as a matter of fact, there are so many things which you have to do in an organization. Like for example, you have n number of customers, you have n number of files to handle, you have certain, the outside organization, that is the work, inside the work and the outside the office work is also important. So what you have to do is you have to prioritize the work. You have to make the list of what is important and what is not. You have to make a right schedule of what you have to do during the day as per their importance and as per their priorities. So this is a very good important time management technique which is definitely going to give you a good result. Then of course the role clarity. Now sometimes the organizational structure is as such that the clarity is the least. Nobody knows what kind of job they have to do. I mean, even if it is not, it is there in the papers, but it is not there in the individual thoughts and individual's protocol and in the individual practice, then what is that use of? So you should have that role clarity in terms of black and white papers, and of course the same has to be endorsed when they are actually practicing the job. Then of course the right objectives, the right ends which you have to achieve should be good. This is also going to reduce the stress levels. Have a positive thinking, and of course the building emotional and the physical success is important to reduce the stress. And last but not the least, learning from the mistakes. You should understand that your mistakes are your best teachers and nobody can teach you as per your mistakes. So mistakes you have to understand, you do not have to repeat those mistakes. You have to understand that yes, we did this because of which this is the outcome, and this outcome is very negative. So if you continue doing it, then nobody can help you, and your organization will become a Titanic. So of course we can come out to a use of a 4-step problem solving. So let us do this. The first is a brain solution, thinking of consequences, choose a solution, evaluate a choice, set realistic goals in the organization, don't dwell in your weakness, visualize what you want to happen, improving your working and living environment, be clear about the ends where you have to reach. So this is a mind game that you have to first analyze your mind, you have to read your mind, and the brain can give you the best solution. So what you have to think about the consequences which are going to happen. You have to choose a solution because there is an alternatives which will be available. So you have to evaluate those choices, those solutions, and take the best out of it. Then you have to be very importantly not dwelling yourself into your weaknesses, because weaknesses can take away everything from the organization. Then you have to visualize in detail, in a larger perspective, that this problem can lead to these problems, and you have to be very clear about your thoughts. Now these are the traditional strategies which we have talked about at individual level and at a corporate level, that is the organizational level. Now coming on to a very beautiful concept, that is the new age stress management techniques. So these are contemporary in nature, these are modern in nature, and everyone adopts these. So these are certain value additions which we are going to give you today, that is, these are all modern new age therapies for reducing the stress. The first is the sound therapy. This therapy employs the sound in an organized or a rhythmic form to disentangle the stressed out nerves and brain, relaxing the mind and the body as a whole. Certain sounds have telling effect upon the state of our brain. Most of the sound heard in the world today are discharging sounds, draining the brain of its vital energy. Sound therapy is a method of beneficially recharging the brain and distributing the latent energy throughout the nervous system. Usually, the effect of the therapeutic sound upon a person is one of the vitalizing, harmonizing, healing at almost every level of being. Sound therapy is one of the most preferred techniques for relieving the negative effects of the stress. Apart from the necessary created sounds, we can access and utilize the natural sounds around us. The nature has a vast reserve for soothing and rhythmic sounds. We seem to overlook the sounds of ocean, breeze, rustling of leaves, bubbling sounds of a waterfall, and even the sound of a silence. Listening to the note they transmit, they're going deeper into the sounds and listening to the note behind them and letting it down. The sounds resonate through our entire body, washes the tension and the worries. In the Indian, spiritual chanting or listening to mantras are considered to be a greatly relaxing and uplifting. It can also provide certain mediating impact sound of Om that can be therapeutic effects on the nerves, muscles, circulation and brain. Sound therapy is found to be extremely beneficial in almost all stress related problems. It can be more effective in the sleeping aspects, it can be more impactful in mind relaxing. So these are the new age strategies to counter the stress, out of which we have done the first one, that is the sound therapy. Deep relaxation, relief from anxiety and consequent healing of the stress related disorders such as the blood pressures, hypertension, digestive problems, correction of stammering and other speech defects induced by the psychological disturbances. Hyperactivity, behavioral problems in the children can also be effective treated by therapeutic sounds. A balanced body vibration ensures reduction in stress effects and metabolism rates. This can diminish the artificial craving for food under stress, increasing mental focus and concentration. So you have to have a deep relaxation activities, you have to have counter the disturbances and the psychological problems. The second is walking for stress relief. The tension, anxiety, anger can be enormously overwhelming feeling. They can ruin our outer existence and can be effective reduced by taking long walks in the open environment. Walking provides with an excellent opportunity to recharge and invigorate our body with extra intake of oxygen and release of muscle tensions. Through long walks, important organs such as heart, lungs, digestive systems, muscle get thoroughly exercised, facilitated blood circulation. The act of walking is recognized as a therapy with multifaceted benefits. Walking is also an effective and handy stress buster. Regular walking sessions can make us feel surer about ourselves, and improve our physical and mental discipline apart from keeping our body healthy. Though walking, we realize our blocked energy and negative feelings and the thoughts. The next is your music therapy. The music or sound coordinated in a rhythmic manner is known to be appeal to our inner being so powerful that it can affect the healing of our body. The science of yoga reveals that body is made of vibrating energy, music, whether vocal and instrumental, and sends out various forms of vibrating sound energy to its surrounding. People are generally attracted to the types of music appealing to their internet body vibration. Some of them love to listen to high and the jazz, but some wants to listen to slow and the pleasant sound of flute that appeals most. So the sound of music, when coordinates well with one's inner self vibration, untangles the knotted and the stressed out nerves, soothes the mind and the body, promotes well-being in the human being as well as the species. And the music can be a source of emotional enjoyment, whether one perceives or just experiences it as a passive listener. So we have done till now the most important new age therapies which can counter the stress. The first was the sound therapy, like we have certain the om therapeutic sounds. We have the sounds from the nature, and deep relaxation, going for walks and listening to the music. This is all going to unentangle the nerves, stressed out nerves, going to take away all the stress, relaxes the body and the mind, and of course then you feel on cloud 9. The fourth new age therapy of reducing the stress is autogenic training for stress. Autogenic training is a European method of relaxing based on passive concentration and body awareness of specific sensations. Since the last century, it has been successfully applied in relieving most stress-related disorders. The affected person learns to use the techniques in relieving the stress symptoms such as anxiety, tension, sleep disorders, examination stress, as well as the chronic stress-induced medical conditions. The technique disease eliminating capabilities has given it the status of a therapy in the western part of the world. Though autogenic training is effectively used for reducing the stress, it is a contraindicated for persons suffering from diabetes, hypoglycemia, heart diseases, and high order low blood pressures. So autogenic training for success, which is of course a new age therapy, can reduce the stress to a large possible extent. Then we have another most important new age stress relieving strategy called biofeedback. The biofeedback is a technique which stress affected persons are taught to improve their health and the physical performance by altering their brain activity, blood pressure, muscle tension, heart rate, and other bodily functions. Under stress, these functions become unusual. The patients are taught to use these signals from their own body, recognize the anomaly, redirect them accordingly. This technique of biofeedback came in the late 1960s from a successful laboratory test on the patients. Biological functions such as body temperature, heart rate, sweat gland activity, brainwave activity are commonly measured and used in a similar way to help the people learn to control their physical functioning. At present, biofeedback techniques are widely used for an increasing number of stress-induced disorders, and some of these ailments are migraine, heart aches, stress and strain, chronic pain, movement disorders, high blood pressure, hypertensive, and the cardiac conditions. The next most important activity to reduce the stress under the new age therapy is a creative visualization. The creative visualization started way back in 1970 when the Carl Symptom developed a visualization technique that helped individuals with the cancer and other tumors to contribute to their own healing. Since then, many other self-healing visualization techniques have been developed. This system consists of visualizing nerve-relaxing imaginaries such as beautiful and peaceful places, a beach, a lake, a garden full of blossoms, or a chirping birds in boughs. So this creative visualization has a tremendous impact to reduce the stress levels of an individual to a great possible extent. One such visualization technique is a wave imaginary. innovated or Phil's crystal tells about a ride the waves, bringing relaxation just in a minute. For example, imagine you are on a beach lying on a warm sands. The waves are rolling in and such one draws closer and closer. Then the wave starts to wash your body before that ebbs out. As each wave falls away from you and returns into the sea, your tension, anxiety, stress are washed away in the process. With each wave, you feel a little more relaxed. So this creative visualization, which was created in 1970, has a very important impact to reduce the stress levels, because you are visualizing that you are in a garden, you're visualizing that you are near the sea, you're visualizing that you are in a very beautiful place where it is very close to nature. So your imaginary skills, your visualization impact, they have a deep impact on reducing the stress levels of an individual. Now we have another most important therapy, which is again a modern therapy, called craniosacral balancing. It is understood that the human body is immensely complex and requires enormous amount of internal organization for its smooth functioning. Craniosacral therapy is a subtle and a profound healing form which aims at organizing the body's inherent life force and natural intelligence of the body. It helps nurture the auto-functioning principles, increasing vitality and the well-being of the body. The healing effect not only brings the structural changes in the body but also improves the management of self at the mental and emotional levels. It is increasingly used for the treatment for many stress-induced disorders throughout the world. This therapy can be profoundly relaxing, exhilarating and effective. Sessions are usually as short as 40 to 60 minutes in total, and some of the stress-related disorders managed by craniosacral therapy are back pain, migraine, post-operative pain, strain or colic, depression, drug withdrawal and exhaustion. So this particular disease, which can be very easily countered by balancing like frozen shoulder, hormonal imbalances, hyperactivity, immune system disorders, fall or injury, sciatica, sports injuries, stress-related illness and the visual disturbances. So these are a few problems which we discussed and which can be countered by that balancing technique. Now we have a neuro-linguistic program which is also called as NLP. Neuro-linguistic program provides us with a blueprint of reality that shows us how others have positively responded to a similar stressful situations that we are facing at present. This lets us understand about the practical life situations and how it can be successfully handled. We see the differences in approaches and make some conscious effort to change our attitude to the stresses. The practice of NLP gives us occasion to grow up our limited capacity to apply these principles in our life without even realizing it came from NLP. Neuro refers to the neural network that feeds information to the brain. Neurons or the nerve cells are the working units used to nervous system to receive, store and send the signal. Linguistic is about content that is verbal and non-verbal that moves across through these networks. Through programming, stored content or a signal is manipulated by brain to convert them into a very useful information. The brain may direct a signal, sequence it, change it, and even our prior experiences or connect it with some other experience we have stored in our mind and brain to convert it into the thinking patterns and the behaviors. So under this neuro-linguistic program, there is a program which provides us with a blueprint of the reality of a situation in which you are and in a situation of others who have already countered it. So having a comparison of these two is going to make you a better person to counter the stress you are having. Then we have autogenic training for stress. This is another new age therapy for the reducing of the stress. Autogenic training is a European method of relaxing based on the passive concentration and the body awareness of specific sensations. Since the last century, it has been successfully applied in relieving most stress-related disorders. The affected person learns to use the technique in relieving the stress symptoms such as anxiety, tension, sleep disorders, examination stress, as well as the chronic stress-induced medical conditions. The technique diseases eliminating capabilities has given out the status of a therapy in the western part of the world. Though autogenic training is effectively used for reducing the stress, it is a contraindicated for persons suffering from diabetes, then hypoglycemia, heart diseases, and the high blood pressure. This autogenic training for success is a very successful European method which has been able to counter the strategies to the best possible extent. Now we are moving on to another the part that is the balancing part. As a matter of fact, you are an individual, you should be able to counter all the stress related activities, be it at an individual level, be it at an organization level. You have to strategize to manage the stress to the best possible extent. Now, if you are unable to do that, the impacts would be very disastrous. So, today we have discussed so many aspects of the stress management techniques. I want to give you a recap because there has been a very technical reasons and you must understand again by having a recap you are able to counter that. So the first part of my lecture was based on what is the prevention of management of stress and why we should prevent the stress and why we should manage the stress. So in this the most importance given was on the because it is going to impact your work style, your life balance, your happiness, your performance at work, your relationships at home, then of course your team spirit which you have to cooperate, your personal development. So not at this cost, you should not keep the stress touching you always. You should try and keep away the stress, but you have to be a smart worker. You have to understand the problem of your own. You have to analyze the factors that what are the potential stressors which are bothering you. You should wipe out those. So then we came on to there are two techniques, one to counter at individual level and one to counter at the organizational level. In the individual level, the main potential stressors are sickness, your turnover, labor turnover in an organization, your bullying, people are bullying you, your communication non-clarity, then of course the dissatisfaction of sometimes the salary is also a big stressor because you're not getting the right amount according to your efforts which has been put in that organization. And of course you are, working on a very monotonous life, a very stereotyped work. So this is also going to impact your lifestyle and you would not be a part of it. You don't want to be a part of it. This is of course a very important stress related factor which you have to understand. Then of course sometimes you have to do a work in which you are not given any kind of a training. Then of course the failures would be important in that case because you are not happy doing it, you're not trained to do it. So this can always give you a stress because the others are performing well than you. So you have to understand the reasons why and you have to get the training in this regard so that you're able to counter that kind of a pressure. Then we talked about certain life situations which can give you a stress like a prolonged sickness, your emotional problems, maybe your child is sick, so sick child and maybe your nagging family always asking you to do X things or the Y things. Then of course certain health problems, certain child related problems, certain health concerns, sometimes you're very unrealistic in your approach which is giving you a lot of pleasure, so that is also one of the causes for the stress. And sometimes your negative attitude, you're carrying a negative attitude is also very bad. And of course what is most important is that you must counter these in a right spirit. How you can counter this in a right spirit, carrying a right attitude is also important to counter these kind of a situation. Then you have to live a very balanced life. You cannot have a watertight compartments of your home and your organization, but as far as possible you should not take the office at home and home at office. And if you start living a good life, you start feeling energetic, you are able to counter the work very nicely. For example, doing a regular exercise, yoga, meditation and finding humor in a stressful situation can also give you a lot of happiness. Then you must recognize that whether the things which are giving you a stress, whether you can change it. So this question to yourself is most important. Like I gave you the example of putting a life into a dead man. which is not possible at all. So that means you cannot change that situation. You do not have any control over it. So it is better to change yourself rather than changing the situation, because that's not under your control. Then you have to manage your time and the schedules so that you're able to spectacularly work in a very good way, not missing out on any grounds, not missing out on any front. Then you have to start accepting the support from others, because sometimes people are very shy going to shrinks, shy going to psychologist, shy going to psychiatrist. It is not that. Whereas if you see the conditions in the global context, the people, they regularly go, say, once in 15 days or once in a month to counter their work-related and life-related problems. But in India, we see that these kind of help, you are not accepted. If you're going to a psychiatrist, you think that people will make fun of you. So this should not be there. You should start accepting the help from the others. Then, of course, you have to develop your skill. You have to make your life very simple. You have to organize your life so that the life is not messed up, and you have to learn to prioritize. You have to learn to say no to what the things you cannot do. You have to nurture yourself. You have to make yourself a very comprehensive man with good enough of the breakfast, with good sleep, with good lunch, with good dresses. And of course, you should not be countering yourself with taking of a lot of alcohol, etc. So you must take a break. You should go on a holiday. You should keep a diary. You should seek a professional help, if at all, whenever it is required. And a regular doing of meditation and yoga can also give you a lot of help. Counseling sessions should be a part of your life, and positive thinking can give you a lot of fruits. Then we discussed about the new age strategies to counter the work-related stress, the sound strategies, the deep relaxation strategies, going for a walk, music therapy, autogenic training for stress, biofeedback, creative visualization, and then cardiovascular balancing, etc. And last but not the least, the neurological linguistic program. This is all we can always counter these kind of problems, and we can always counter the stress related issues in the organization. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so very much. And dear friends, we believe that through these live Redesign lectures, we make education stress-free. So dear friends, you can watch the lectures anytime you want, and afterwards you can do write to us at info.cec@nic.in. We would love to have your feedbacks, your queries on the respective ID. We would be meeting again soon. Till then, take care. Goodbye. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you once again.